To fix the world, you need to fix yourself first. If a person with a goal makes 1,000 mistakes, then a person without any goals will make 10,000. Just imagine if you watch a superhero movie and come back home. For a few seconds, you feel like just like your favorite superhero. You may also wish to change this world. Haven't you thought like that? If I think I have to change the world, is it possible? From ancient India, the sages used to say, Loka samastaha sukhino bhavantu, samasta lokan sukhino bhavantu, which means the whole world shall be prosperous and happy. Similarly, the many worlds shall be prosperous and happy. How can all those ancient people visualize in such a way that the whole world shall be prosperous and happy? Because they knew that for the whole world to be happy and prosperous, many individuals living in this world shall be doing their best job, having their best character, having the best of knowledge and wisdom. If at an individual level, if these things are achieved, then also at the society level, society at large, the country, the continents, the whole world can become prosperous. Are we not talking about all these abstract things which are never going to happen? Of course, this is the most possible ideal situation. But in the normal day to day life, we always don't see many things happening in the idealistic way. That doesn't mean that we should not think about ideals. We can think about the ideals because that's the best ever benchmark you can have. And once you know that benchmark, it's always the effort we need to put to get to that point. Knowing that we may never reach that point, but still attempting to get better in everything we do, we can at least try to reach some point, even if it's very far from the benchmark. But even making this small trial will make us feel inspired and make us to put noble ambitions and try to get better in our life, isn't it? So, to fix the world, first we need to fix many people in the world, and I am also in those many people in the world. That means if I have to fix the world, I also have to fix myself. Or, on the other hand, if you have to just say, if I fix myself properly, then I can be influential to some degree so that I can influence others and many other people if they improve like me, and all of us collectively can try to make this world a little bit better. So that's the reason. To fix the world, you need to fix yourself first. So the change starts with me. As the wise people said, be the change you want to see in the world. So if I have to see a changed world for good, if I have to see a changed world, a positive world where most of the people they live in harmony, they live in peace, they cooperate with each other, they help each other, then I must be the change myself before expecting that the world looks happy, peaceful, and prosperous. Now, let's assume for a moment that it's possible to change the world, and I start with me first. What shall I do next? Of course, in today's world, there are so many people who are, on an average, good people. That's why we have families, we have societies. There are a few bad guys who are actually causing disruptions, be it in business, be it in politics, be it in anything. As per Pareto's principle, 80 is to 20, in everything, in every society, in every profession, in every situation, there could always be 80% of the problems caused by 20% of the root causes. On the other hand, even if you think there are 20% of good people, they are taking the burden of 80% of the world. So, on an average, if you think like this, if 20% of this world get changed, that means this whole world could become a better place. Currently, we look at the economic depression, the wars happening, the conflicts, all these problems, and we simply get demoralized and think there is nothing I can do. So just let me go with the flow, take all the news, take all the negative perspectives, the brainwashing happening through the social media, all these things, and we get depressed and demoralized. But it need not be that way because, from the philosophical point of view, most of the religions suggest that you look inward, you try to find the God within you, and you becoming a better person is actually helping the world. Even if it's a minuscule portion, still it helps the world. So the change has to start with me so that possibly in the future also the world could be changed to a certain degree. If you watch this video till the end, you are going to learn how you have to make your vision in a correct fashion, along with the way to know about yourself and how to put your vision and the understanding of yourself together in the form of an actionable plan, so that from day one today you can always try to achieve some degree of progress by the end of the year. If you put 1 year as a target for the immediate change, and it's not going to just end with this year, it will go on. But to start with, like the journey of 1,000 miles, starts with the first step. If you take the first step today, you are going to learn all these techniques in this video, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe with your friends. Now, going into the topic, how will you know that your vision is correct? Now we understood that the world can become a better place. We all wish for the world to become a better place. But to let that happen, we need to change ourselves. So I should start with me. And if I have to change myself, I need to know what am I first, and then what shall I do? So let's answer the part of what shall I do first. I know with some understanding of what is good in general, I can make up some goals. But are these goals really efficient? Okay, that's the question to think about. For example, if I want to assume something as my goal, is that the right thing? That's the first question to ask myself. For example, now I want to keep a goal, and I have done it in the past over many years. At the beginning of the new year, I have put up so much of things in my list saying all these are my mission statements or all these are my resolutions for the new year. But have I achieved really? No. I think it's not just with me, but with many people. The same thing happens with you, with many people, with me, with everyone. Why? Because many of us, we put the goals without thinking too much, just because we need to write down some goals at the beginning of the new year, because many people try to get inspired. They try to tell you, okay, past is past, let's start new, let's make resolution now, this year we are going to succeed. But unless we don't have a new method, or if we follow differently from what we have done in the past, only then you will be able to make this positive change. Otherwise, what happens? You repeat the same stuff which you have been doing all these years, and you expect that something new will happen this year. It's insane to think like that, right? So we need to find a way to make the goals and the resolutions in the correct way. That means identifying the right goals and then finding the right way to filter your goals and find out which are the right ones. So for this goal setting, you have something called SMART technique. You think that intelligent and cunning people are smart? No, that's not the case. The point is the goals have to be smart. It starts with S.M.A.R.T. It's an acronym actually. S stands for being specific, M stands for measurable, A stands for achievable, R stands for relatable or relevant, and T stands for time bound. If you have any goal which doesn't pass the filter test, okay, this filter, this SMART technique test, then it's not going to help you. Then how can we know about which goals are smart? Very simple. Take a goal and just put this filter. S. Is it specific? It should be specific. I need to know, for example, if I have to achieve some credential, if I have to get knowledge in a particular software like coding, or if I have to study for an examination and get a great result, I need to know specifically what I have to do. You need to put in some effort to find it out. That's being specific. Similarly, you need to know if your goal can be measurable. For example, if there is an examination, you know that there is the grade or the number of marks you can attain in the examination. So that's measurable. Similarly, if you have to drop your weight because you are obese or overweight, then you need to know dropping, let's say, 20 to 25 kg per year is being specific. And then knowing that you can measure every month how many kgs you are going to drop. Or for example, if you think about doing high intensity interval training exercise, or if you want to go for running or jogging, then you know how many steps or how many number of hours you are going to do this exercise, right? So some way the goal has to be specific, then the goal has to be measurable, and the next one is achievable. Even if you have some goals being specific and being measurable, but what if they are not achievable? For example, you know that you can run for 20 minutes at a stay without pausing in between, but you are not prepared, you are not really fit currently, but then you decide tomorrow to run a marathon. Is it really achievable? Maybe achievable for those who are extremely fit, but not for you. So because you are using the SMART technique for your goals, not for other goals, right? So what works for others may not work for you. In this sense, if you have to make your goals achievable, then you have to be very clear about your own self, and then you need to know what you need to achieve, right? For example, you can only run 1 kilometer, not a marathon. Maybe after 5 years you can run a marathon, but if you start today, you should only put the goal which is achievable. So specific, measurable, and achievable. Then the next part of the goal is relevance. Is it relevant to you? Is it relevant to your long-term vision and strategy? Is it relatable to you? For example, if you put the goals like achieving fitness, if you put the goals like achieving a credential or passing an examination, and then you start planning and doing different things, like you now put some other goal and say, no, I will travel all around the world. I want to go for tourism in Europe or to United States or to Mauritius or some other islands, okay, to enjoy your life. What happens to these two goals then? If you have to set some goals, it shall be relevant to you. For example, if you want to run a marathon, is it really relevant to you to run a marathon? No, right? Maybe you just need to do 1 hour of exercise per day to keep your fitness levels, because you are more focused on your own profession. You are not an athlete. You don't want to be running a marathon just for the sake of it. Unless your objectives, your overall vision is not pointed to that direction to run a marathon, running a marathon is not your goal. Being fit is your goal. So for being fit, you need not run marathon. You can spend a couple of hours in a gym. You can walk for a long distance. You can maybe bicycle every week for, let's say, 4 or 5 hours. Whatever works for you. If your goal is fitness, your objective is finally to get fit, then your goal also has to be relatable to that. That's the point. No goal is wrong. No goal is right. It all depends on whether you are relating that with your overall vision of what you want to achieve in your life. That's it. Then the last one is being time bound. If you are not disciplined enough to measure where you are going with respect to a timeline, then your goal is as good as a dream. It is said, a goal without a deadline is just like a dream. Unless your goal is time bound, you are never going to achieve it. Of course, even if you put a timeline, you may get delayed, you may get distracted for many other reasons, and by the time you reach your goal, you might have lost some time and you have put in effort, not exactly the result what you wanted you may get. At the end, having some deadline has actually driven you from the current point A to point B. If you don't have this, you may only get stuck in point A forever, right? So having a goal with a timeline is the inspirational thing, because this drives you to push yourself to achieve your target by this timeline. So that's important. Now, to sum up, goals have to be SMART. That means goals have to be specific, goals have to be measurable, goals have to be achievable, goals have to be relatable, and goals have to be time bound. This is important. Now you know how to set the goals. The next point is to see who are you, what am I to achieve these goals. We made the goal setting based on what is generally considered as good. But then, even to reach that point, we need to also know where we are today, where I am today. How will I know that? It's not just, my position in the society, what I have achieved in the past. No, it doesn't matter. What matters the most is your inner mindset, your wiring, your personality, right? So in this case, you have some technique called SWOT, S.W.O.T. Okay, take a paper, put 2 lines, just write strengths here, weaknesses here, opportunities here, and threats here. Strengths. What are strengths? All those qualities in you, your talents, your mindset, your, for example, language skills, your coding skills, your profession related skills, your job related skills, everything, whichever is actually helping yourself and also others, those are generally your strengths. And again, these are different for different people. What you have strength today can become a weakness later, or what you have as weakness today can also become your strength. So similarly, come to the section of weaknesses. List down everything honestly. This whole exercise is only for you. No need to show to anyone else. Maybe you can talk with someone you trust deeply so that you can also get good insights about you. After you write down the strengths, go also and write the weaknesses. Similarly, you can also write a list of opportunities. For example, from your current situation, you already know that if you improve on something, for example, enhancing your strengths, reducing your weaknesses, what opportunities you can get. You may already have some idea. If you don't, you can research, you can ask other people in your profession, try to find out from the current situation what could be your possible opportunities. So you will have some from your own mind, and you will have some ideas coming from others, and you will have the full bunch of opportunities which you can list down in your paper. Similarly, there are threats. Threats could be the external factors which you can't control, right? All the other things, for example, your strengths you can control, your weaknesses you can somehow control, your opportunities probably partly they are not in your control, partly they are in your control. You can still try to utilize the opportunities, but threats mostly are not in your control. But the only thing is, knowing about these, you become more self-aware and you can try to manage the threats. So out of these four, something which is not strictly in your control are the threats. Write them down, because these will give you a sense of fear. From that sense of fear, you would like to become more secure. And to become more secure, you will have to develop some strengths, reduce your weaknesses, and increase your opportunities. So this exercise is actually for your own self improvement. For that reason, if I make all these SWOT analysis correctly, and if I revise it once in a while, like once in 2 months, once in 6 months, whenever I feel like doing that, if I do this, I will know how I am improving myself, because mind is tricky. It doesn't always remember things at the right time what you need. So it's better to record these things and keep in your personal journal or in a diary. Okay, now you know from your awareness about what is good, what shall be the right goals. You have used SMART technique and you have got some set of goals. Now you have used SWOT analysis and you knew about yourself, what you need to do, what you need to develop so that you can match your objectives and you can achieve your SMART goals using your strengths, managing your threats, reducing your weaknesses, and improving your opportunities. Okay, these two are two different exercises you have done. Now, what next? Then the important thing to note is start small and be consistent. The point is, if you keep large goals and then you are too overwhelmed by these larger goals, you are always going to fail. So, we understood for this reason that SMART technique helps you to split your goals in a proper fashion, and your SWOT analysis helps you to realize who you are. You will know using these two exercises how you can correlate between both and come up with the right goals. So, starting small and trying to improve continuously is the best way. Let's say every single day you try to improve 0.1%, not even 1%, just 0.1%. All through the year, if you do the same thing, you can make 36.5% in a single year. That means in less than 3 years, you are going to 100% transform yourself. So we all know this basic arithmetic, right? It's easy to do this. Once you know that it's possible to have these small incremental changes, if done consistently, will lead to great success. That's the secret we need to really understand and observe in our minds. If I have to pick some goals, now we know how the SMART goals can be identified and we know how we can identify ourselves. Now, the third thing is okay, now I put a timeline, like let's say this year, and within this year, what shall I achieve? Then, out of my list of goals which I wish to achieve in my life, I need to pick some for this year in the current situation, which are the most important to me. I need to find those things. How will I do this? And I cannot put so many because I have to start small and be consistent. Maybe I have to pick 5 or 6 or maybe maximum 10, not more than that. If you put roughly about 10, you have about 1 month for achieving each goal. Or on the other hand, if you have got somewhat bigger goals, maybe 3 or 4 or 5, whatever comes to your mind. Just for giving an example, let's say for my own understanding, I decided, okay, this year I will read 2 books and I have chosen which are those 2 books, very specific. Similarly, I realized that I need to build some muscle, I need to do resistance training, I need to walk a little bit more because I realized that my job is more of sedentary nature. I don't often move in the office. So I have to do these kind of exercises in the evenings. Similarly, I understand that I have to maybe improve in my social skills within my family and also with respect to few other friends and my circle of people who are close to me. Now, I have to find a way how to measure these things because that's the logical way, right? You identified what are your goals, you identified who are you, and then you identified which goals to be achieved in this year. Now, the next step is how are you actually measuring them through the year? So, measuring is not really difficult if you just put a little bit of common sense onto your goals, right? For example, if I have a book, I have to read these 2 books. Let's say they both contain 1,000 pages in total, 500 page big books. Okay, I have 365 days in a year. Even if I take the weekends off, okay, or maybe I read only on one day of the weekends, not on the other days, still I make 300 days in a year, right? In these 300 days, if I read 3 pages every single day, I can make 1,000 pages, right? It's so simple, but because we are not consistent, we are unable to do this. So that's important. So I have to find a way to measure because there is a saying, you can't control those which you can't measure. So if you have to control your habit of reading the book and finishing these 2 books in a year, you need to measure it. Maybe just take a piece of paper or somewhere in your journal or diary, you start writing what you did, 5 6 lines every single day for all your 5 or 6 goals. That way you know how to measure your progress in a book. Similarly, for your walking or fitness, it could be based on time or it could be based on a discrete step in your goal, which you can measure. For example, if I have to walk 90 minutes a day, I know if I have really walked 90 minutes or not. If I have decided to walk 10,000 steps in a day, then I know how many steps I am going to walk every single day. Nowadays, the smartphones have all the apps, and if you just configure once, just putting the smartphone in your pocket can also give you the number of steps, your activity. And if you even buy a smartwatch and be more serious about your fitness, you can always get the measurement automatically. Thing is, whether you do it manually, whether you do it through the use of gadgets or something, it's important to make this measurement. There could be few abstract things like how will anyone judge the character, okay, or how will you measure your own improvement in character. It could be a good goal to check. Just for giving an example, that I will measure my behavior with my people at home or at office or in my circle of friends. What's the time I have every single day being social, for example, right? Maybe I have 4 hours per day, and then I put maybe a list of 10 parameters or maybe 5 or 6, something like being kind, be polite in listening to others, giving them full attention when they are speaking with me, not using any harsh words, trying to encourage other people, then appreciating others sincerely, taking criticism if anybody is giving me something. So like this, if I make a certain list of parameters, maybe every day I can check, because I have my journal and I have the habit of registering things because I'm measuring my goals. Now it's easy for me to check, okay, in this aspect what did I do, okay, here I got 1 point, here I got 1 point, maybe in this I lost one, in this I lost one. So maybe my first day score is, let's say, 5 out of 10. The next day, maybe 3 out of 10, 7 out of 10, 10 out of 10. That way, if I do this for the entire length of the year, I may have, let's say, 3000 points out of 3650, or it could be 2000 out of 3050, whatever. But if you did nothing, maybe you never know how much you improved. But if you made this measurement all through the year, by the end of the year, you will exactly know how much you changed. And who is measuring it? You are measuring it. It's not, to be publicized or told to anyone. It's just your own life, your own assessment, and your own goals. So what we understood now is, to recap, we understood that the goals have to be smart. We apply SMART technique to identify which are the right goals to have. Then we use its SWOT analysis to understand, to reach these goals, what is my SWOT analysis and where I have to improve, where I have to adjust myself. Then we understood about how I have to pick these goals so that I make it practical, I make it small but consistent. Then we understood how we are going to measure these goals, right? There is no hard and fast rule. You can take whatever method you prefer to do this. Now, at the end, to sum up everything in this way, and if you further want to achieve something, you have something called weekly planner. If you are interested about knowing about this weekly planner, you can watch our previous videos, or if you feel you need more details about how to use the weekly planner in the perfect way possible, please let us know in the comments below. Finally, when you knew that you can measure your goals, you have identified the goals, you measure the goals, and you check your progress, just remember this. Despite doing all these things, you may fail. Despite doing all these things, you may not exactly reach your expectations. But just remember this. If a person with a goal makes 1,000 mistakes, then a person without any goals will make 10,000. So, having goals is always good. Having self awareness is always good. Having a measuring plan is always wonderful. And starting small and being consistent is the most important thing, because it's more about habits of doing certain processes every single day, which will push you closer to your goals rather than just depending on willpower, because willpower is also a tricky thing. You can have very high willpower on certain days, but your willpower may nosedive on the other days. So don't just trust on willpower. Don't always believe in your willpower. Always try to believe in the power of habits. So if you make these habits and you make the proper measurements, you will definitely achieve your goals. And by doing this, at the end of the year, if you stop for a moment and make the comparison from your original baseline where you were and the point where you reached at the end of the year, you would be surprised if you really did all these things, because you will at least not be at zero. You should have reached maybe 20% or 30% or 40 or 80 or even 100 or beyond 100, who knows. And if something inspired you, and then if that something has driven you to achieve all these goals, and if you make it a habit and you enjoy this process of setting goals, measuring them, achieving them, again setting higher goals and doing all these things in sequence, then who knows, you could be a great person as well. And we have seen a lot of great people in this world who are really contributed to the benefit of this world, right? You could be one of them, I could be one of them. So it's important to get that inspiration, and inspiration is just a small portion of your overall scheme of things. You need to get the techniques, the hard work, the persistence, and the consistency you need to maintain to reach your goals. This is very important. And a last point, knowledge is very important. From knowledge you also will derive wisdom, and the only thing that multiplies by sharing is only knowledge. So if you got any inspiration from this video, please feel free to tell your friends, share this, and ask them also to subscribe to our channel. Thank you very much for your time, and we hope you achieve your goals in this year. Stay safe, stay tuned, and meet you with the next video. Bye bye.